Hello, Education 1030 students. I hope everyone is enjoying their working at home remotely. This weather is a little bit crazy, but nonetheless, I am glad that we are still moving along online. So remember, even if you are all online or you have some online in person, just please make sure you're checking eLearn to keep up with your courses and expectations. Now, with our course, with it being online asynchronous, everything is an e-learn for you, so you can still keep up even if we are not going to be on campus. So if you remember last week, we worked on module 2, which is planning your pathways. So this week, we're going to shift our focus to how do we manage our time in college? Prioritizing and managing your time is probably one of the most essential skills that you can have in your life, not only college. Sometimes we find that procrastination gets the better of us, and we also need to really learn how not only to take control of our own time and manage it properly, but we really need to look at how important it is for us to set some goals and what does that actually look like when they're SMART goals. So we're going to be doing our quiz, reading our chapter 3, and we'll go over that just in a minute. And this time we're going to have you do a discussion board for your key assessments. So remember, some of us are still getting used to navigating eLearn. I always try to encourage students, go back to the Getting Started module. It's going to have the video eLearn series to help you navigate, like how do I email my instructor? How do I take quizzes? How do I post in a discussion board, which is one of your assignments this week. But if you go to Student Help tab when you're inside of eLearn, there's that video series that's really going to help you if you're still kind of stuck and don't know how to navigate the LMS system. So let's get down to Module 3. So really our objectives for this module is going to be really to evaluate and look at how you manage and spend your time. We're also going to look at why it's important for you to learn how to prioritize, the correct way to set goals and to stay motivated and kind of what that looks like for you and your individual goals, and looking at some strategies to help us become better time management managers. And then looking at how it's different when we're managing time and all these responsibilities in high school versus college. And then we're going to also look at specifically if you know you're a procrastinator, what are some strategies that are going to help you with that? Now, how am I going to assess you this week? So this week you're going to be taking the Module 3 quiz. Remember, when you have that window of time that the quizzes are open, take advantage of that. You are allowed to take the quiz multiple times during that window of time. So basically, you get unlimited access. And when the window closes, I will take the highest attempt. So just make sure that you are looking at that. Part of your homework also is going to be completing what we call a self-evaluation, looking at your own time management habits and reflecting on that and posting it in the discussion board. Again, an optional tool that can help you earn bonus points on our exams is going to be those reading organizers. Okay, so every module has a reading organizer when it's connected to our textbook. So if you'll look here underneath our key terms, which are going to be the key concepts we're looking at this week, it'll be right underneath there. So when you click on it, you should be able to download it and you will be able to fill this in. Now remember, there is not a drop box for reading organizers. These outlines I will email you when it gets close to our time of taking our first exam, and then you will email them to me for a chance at bonus points. Now, let's look at our key terms and concepts this week. Okay, so remember, all of our modules are connected to our textbook, our OER. So that OpenStax textbook is where we're going to get these key terms and concepts. So these are the things we're going to look at, right? We're going to look at a concept that was developed by Mark Twain called Eat the Frog, right? So that's something we're going to look at. What is the Eisenhower matrix and why it's important for you? Thinking about prioritizing tasks and responsibilities, we're going to look at the Pomodoro technique, right? That was developed by Francesco Cirillo. And this is basically a six-step concept, and it's really going to help you try to get through as many tasks as you can by setting what we call intervals or work intervals, and then they're followed by a short break. Um, Normally, we say we wouldn't do around 25 minutes long, right? That's why they're called pomodoros, which basically is Italian word for tomato because chirrillos are basically what's used in a tomatoes shaped kitchen timer, and it keeps track of intervals. So that's where that name came from for this concept. Obviously, prioritization, procrastination, and then SMART is basically an acronym for when we're setting goals. So is it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound? And then we have values, right, which helps guide our actions and thinking. So those are the things I want you to kind of focus on as you're reading through the textbook. Now, again, you could either go to OER and you could download the textbook, the PDF textbook, or you can just use the embedded textbook here. You are going to be reading in chapter 3. So here it is embedded for you, but if you like the PDF version, you'll go specifically to chapter 3. And this is really the outline. So in our chapter 3, you have 7 sections or 7 main ideas, if you will, that we're looking at. So what are the benefits of time management? How do you manage your time properly in college? Why is procrastination an enemy? How do I actually manage my time and what are some strategies? Prioritization, basically looking at yourself and reflecting, which is part of our assignment this week when we're doing the discussion board, and looking at what exactly you're doing and when do you do it. And then goal setting and motivation, again, going back to that key concept called SMART goals, the acronym that we use when we're setting goals. And then what are some enhanced strategies for time and task management, right? So when we're doing our time management and then priorities. Okay, so that's going to be mainly the main sections that we're focusing on for chapter 3. Now, once you scroll down, I've had several students ask me this. They said, Mrs. Hayes or Professor Hayes, where are my assignments? Well, even though I told you this is organized in a linear fashion, if you're not scrolling all the way down past the textbook, you're not going to see the assignment in the quiz. Okay, so the assessments of how you're going to be assessed is going to be at the bottom of the embedded textbook. Anytime you see the word textbook, that is going to be pages from your textbook. So you'll have to scroll down a little bit before you see the assessments or the graded uh, assignments. So the first thing you'll see here is the quiz. And again, all of our assignments will always be due Thursday nights at 11:30, which means that they will open on Friday before. So depending on when you're watching this video, it starts Friday, February 6th and ends Thursday, February 12th. So make sure you have the quiz done before that time. And then you'll see here, you're going to have the discussion board link, which you will click on to get to the link of the discussion board. Now, there is more than one way to get to the discussion board. I always link it for you, but another way that you get to it is if you go back up to the top and you click on communication, there is a section called discussions, and you'll choose that from the drop-down menu and you click on it and it's going to take you to the discussion board. It's labeled discussions, but if you scroll down, you're going to see them labeled, okay? And it's going to match the module that we're in, which is module 3. And it'll tell you when it's open and when it closes, okay? Now, in every discussion board I have, it has the actual directions here of what you'll be posting. But I wanted you to see is if you are actually inside of where you just were underneath the quiz, there is a Word document, which this is what I prefer you do. If you click on Module 3, Self-Evaluation of Time Management Habits with Reflection Word document, it's going to pop up in a new window and you're going to hit download. Okay. And I want you to click on it. This will enable you to be able to type in here. Now, earlier I mentioned for this week, I really want you, when you're reading the chapter, to really think about your own time management habits, right? I want you to reflect on what you do. So you're going to self-evaluate. What you're going to do is you're going to read each statement here and see where you agree with them or how well you agree with them. So you're going to rate it on how well and reflect on your time management style. Okay. How you will do this is you will just put an X or a check mark um, in the rating that you agree with. Okay. Now, for instance, the first one says, I like to be given strict deadlines for each task. It helps me stay organized and on track. Do you always think this? Usually, sometimes, rarely, or never? So just really think about it before you just click something. So again, you could either put a check mark if you're versed in how to do those things, or the simplest thing would be just to put an X, right? And you would do that for each statement. Now, underneath the statement, you're going to scroll down and you're going to see some questions. There are 4 questions that you're going to answer. And again, I want you to look at what you answered up here when you're answering these questions and really reflect on that. So, thinking about what is your overall evaluation of your time management habits? Are they serving you well or could you improve on them? Again, it depends on what you answered up here. What did you learn from doing this time management evaluation? And then what could you do, excuse me, differently to help you improve your time management skills? And again, you could always go back to chapter 3 and look at the strategies that we talk about and maybe even include some of those you would like to try. Now, I will preface, anytime that you are trying to incorporate a new habit or a strategy into your life, it is better to try one at a time. If you try more than one thing that's new and you're trying to form a new habit, if you have too many you're trying out, it's more difficult for you to stick with it and you're more likely to fail. Okay, so very rarely does this work out. So I would pick one of those strategies that you think might help you improve. And then they say to learn a new skill or to make something a habit, it takes anywhere from 30 to 90 days straight. Okay, average person's usually around 60 days consistently doing it. So it's going to take time to see if it actually improves how you're doing in your life, your personal life and your academics, right? Because you're juggling both things. A lot of us have to manage. Maybe you have a family at home. Maybe you're going to school and you play sports for Water State, and then you have your family. Maybe you're working and you're going to school. So there's lots of different things you're juggling right now. So really thinking about how can I improve my time management so I can be able to achieve the success that I want and be able to accomplish my goals. And one of your goals is to get a degree, or you wouldn't be here, right? Or certificate, or whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve. And then what results would you like to see from any of the changes in your time management habits? Okay, so that will be what you will fill out. Now, I want you to save it. And once you save it, you're going to go back to either the link or the communication and click discussions, right? Because I give you the link to get there. There's more than one way to get there. And then you're going to submit your results. Okay, so one thing I do want to preface is that whenever you're doing a discussion, you need to make sure you're replying to at least 2 other students' posts. Okay, and you are mainly looking at things that they wrote in their reflection questions, right? So think about positive ways that you're going to engage. Since we're not in class, we can't actually have discussion. So this is one way that we could do that. Okay, so when you're applying, you might want to apply to maybe some things that they do currently that maybe gives you an idea of something to try, or maybe they talk about some changes they want to make. So really, we can get something out of reading other people's posts. So you will reply to that. And that's pretty much what you're going to be doing for Module 3. One thing I do want to preface that you're aware of is that we will next be working on our Unit 1 exam, which means that I will be sending an email out that says, here's the review. I will do a separate video for that about what you need to be studying, but also I will send an email out about you need to email me your reading organizers, which were optional. So you still have time at this moment to go back and do Module 1 and 2 reading organizers if you would like a chance at some bonus points for the first exam. All right, guys, I hope that everyone stays warm. I know that Punxsutawney Phil saw his shadow, so they're saying 6 more weeks of winter, but it would be nice for some spring warm weather. We'll see what happens, but I hope that you stay warm. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Until next time, take care.